The pen is said to be the most important tool of the journalists. This program is called PENSDOWN because this is the only platform where the news reporter or presenter becomes the newsmaker. They drop their working tool, which is the pen, and then we engage them to understand all that they go through as far as their journey through their crafts is concerned. Today, I have been joined by another colleague. He is a talented writer with a decade's experience in online and print journalism. His reporting interests cut across migration, education, foreign affairs, transport and road safety, environment/climate change, as well as aquaculture. He has worked with the New Times Corporation, publishers of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, for the past 5 years, during which he has written compelling and impactful stories about issues that transcend the aforelisted beats. Prior to this, the Bloomberg Financial Journalism Fellow worked with the Ghana News Agency in the Central Region, Cape Coast, where his journalistic skills, defined by accuracy and professionalism, were honed right after journalism school. His desire to change society through his work earned him the first position in the 2020 Merck Foundation Media Recognition Awards Ghana contest, aimed at rolling back infertility stigma in Africa. He placed second in the 2021 contest for West African countries. He was runner-up in the print/online category of the 2022 Reporting Migration Awards, organized by the International Organization for Migration and the European Union. He is a product of the Ghana Institute of Journalism, where he studied for his bachelor's with public relations major and diploma in communication studies. He has over the years built his capacity in data journalism, business journalism, oil and gas reporting with institutions such as Rhodes University, South Africa, and Bloomberg. Jonathan Donkor is my guest today. You're welcome, my brother.
Thank you, Nana.
Right. Now, I realized that before you came into journalism, you worked with, I think, SIC Life. Am I right?
Yes, I did.
Why did you choose journalism? Probably some other career was building up with this, your short romance with SIC Life. Why didn't you continue?
Okay, thank you, Nana, for having me. I didn't choose that path because I felt it wasn't one I was interested in.
Okay.
It was a means to an end. You know, after secondary school, you'd want to do some jobs here and there to prepare yourself for tertiary.
Yes.
So I had to psych myself that even though I didn't initially like business, marketing, and all those things, once it would help me achieve an aim, I'll do it. So even though it looked promising, I had my eye on the pen. So I decided to follow that path.
How did you discover, or how did the interest in journalism come about?
Okay. I've always loved writing and reading. So growing up, I was scribbling down poetry and attempting to write stories, fiction here and there. So right after junior high school, I knew that I'm a writer. So that is what I have to pursue. So I decided to follow that path. But I initially wanted to be a poet or a playwright. Journalism wasn't the first thought that came to mind, even though I recall when I was in JSS2, I created my own magazine. I called it Form 2 Journal, and I did personality profiles of people I liked. I wrote poems, I wrote stories, jokes, and all that. And I compiled it for myself and a few people who were interested in my craft. So it wasn't the first thing I wanted to do. But I realized that in Ghana, being a poet or a playwright.
Before you continue, this your magazine in JSS2, I am interested. Was it a handwritten document, or you typed and printed it out?
It was a handwritten document.
Okay.
I clipped, cut paper cuttings here and there. Then I wrote them. I tried to write them as clear as possible. And then I used different inks. It's unfortunate I don't have it here in Accra. I would have shown it to you. So then that was how it was.
Wow. This is interesting. Please go ahead.
Okay. So when I realized that, okay, poetry and then playwrights isn't the profession that would probably everyone would see as an income generating profession, I decided to look through the things I had wished I would do, then choose journalism. Yes.
You have done 10 years or a little over that. If we are to go back into time, 12 years, are you still going to choose the same path?
Yes, like I said, I am a writer, so I would still choose the writing path. Yes, I would do a bit of writing here and there.
Now let's look at journalism. There is something called social media that seems to have redefined the frontiers of journalism. If you have done more than 10 years, it means that you entered journalism practice at a time that social media was not so central to the practice. From that time up to this time, what would you say is the comparative analysis? How has social media redefined the practice of journalism?
Okay, thank you. I think social media has broadened journalism. It has made things easier. For example, you can reach a lot of people through social media. Yes, it has helped make the work easier. You can watch events wherever you are and report on them. You could give your viewers or your readers the opportunity to also give you feedback faster.
Right.
Yes, it has generally made the job easier, but it has its excesses.
Yes.
Yes, it has also brought in the issue of fake news, and has made it a bit difficult for people to differentiate between what is true and what is not true, or what is being massaged and all that. So it has its good and bad.
Okay.
aspect.
In Africa, social media has created richer bloggers than richer journalists. Were journalists asleep? Did they sleep on the job? Which is why social media, they couldn't harness the full potential to their financial advantage. Or what exactly is it that the bloggers are doing, which journalists are not doing, and are making them benefit more from social media?
Okay. I think that bloggers are earning more than journalists because they enjoy certain freedom. For example, journalists are expected to provide accurate information. They are held to certain standards. But bloggers seem to be free. They are sometimes careless in what they post. They don't cross-check. Most of them are after the viewership and then all that. But journalists would want to go the extra mile to ensure that their stories are true and then balanced. And the people are also changing. There are lots of young people out there who would want to focus more on entertainment and other things. There's the serious issues that the mainstream media reports. So that is what has brought that disparity between the mainstream and then the social media folks or bloggers. And I also think that it is a bit easier to do blogging than journalism. Yes, because for a journalist, you would first need some training, whether through journalism school or on-the-job training. You would need to fact check or cross-check your information. You'd have to make phone calls. You have to visit certain places to verify information. It takes some time. But for bloggers, within a short time, they pick bits and pieces of everything and then they are gone, and it makes it easier for them. That is how I see it.
Does journalism pay?
From where I stand, I don't think journalism pays that much. I think that journalists do more than they get in Ghana. They sacrifice a lot, but they don't get what is due them. So that's my view on it.
What's in these 10 years or a little more would you say represents the most challenging assignment for you?
Okay, my most challenging assignment was sort of investigative journalism. My very first attempt at it. I had then joined Ghanaian Times formally. I think it was in February 2017 or so. Then we had information that there's weasel infestation at Piccadilly company. They make biscuits. They are not in the area. So I was the one tasked to go and find out what it was. The very first day we arrived, we got there, we asked the HR, they said, okay, they are aware of the situation, but they would want to meet myself and another colleague in their conference room. Before they would even answer our questions, they told us that we'd have to turn off our phones, and then the information they are going to give us is off record. Then I was surprised that how can we get a story when the person is already gagging us? He told us several things about how they put measures in place to ensure that there's no harm to the public. They did not accept that there was infestation. They told them their quality assurance processes, and even took us on a tour around the company. Then we got to the storehouse where they keep the, I think, wheat. Then I realized that there was a line of dead insects in front of the gate. And I used my phone to take a shot. They had told us that the infestation was from the dumping sites near the community. And then so they took us to the community. And then what surprised me was that they were fumigating the community. I was like, oh, if you're not responsible for this, why are you fumigating the community? We got to the side of the residents, and then we went back to the office to file our story. Then my boss asked me to get a picture of the place. We didn't snap pictures. Then we went back. But if you visited that company before, you realize that they have just one narrow road leading to the company. So we had to devise a way that the security men wouldn't see us. I went with a photographer. He was at the back. The first shot caught the attention of the security man, and they chased us. Had it not been for the skill of the driver, would have probably been beaten or something. So that was my very first attempt at investigative journalism, and I think that it is by far my most risky experience. Yes.
Wow. But I'm curious. When they realized, I'm talking about the time you approached the HR, when they realized your mission was a fact-finding one, did they make any offers to you? Did they attempt to bribe you or something?
Yes, they did. They brought boxes of biscuits, but they made it clear that it was not bribe. It was something that they wanted to give to us, but we didn't accept that. Then after the story came, the FDA closed down the facility. And I got a call. I was then doing, I think, my top up at GIG. I got a call. I was in class when I got a call from the woman. And she said her boss wanted to meet me. It was a Saturday. I was surprised that why would you want to meet me about something that is official on a Saturday? I declined to go because of the little that I had seen there. So they never called back. They did the right things, and the FDA reopened their factory.
Apart from that incident, how many times in the line of duty have you been approached with anything monetary or material to compromise the facts of any story you were doing?
Apart from that, I haven't had any incidents like that.
From that experience and from what the little you went through, would you attempt investigative journalism again?
It is risky. I am not sure I would, but I admire those who have dedicated their lives to doing that and shedding light on the rots going on in the system. I really admire them. I feel that they are really belling their cats.
Having spent 10 years in journalism, I'm sure there are colleagues you started the practice with who have left. Some of them have gone into PR or other fields just to make a living. What is accounting for this level of attrition? Why is journalism losing so many trained, qualified professionals?
Okay, I have colleagues who have left and are still leaving. I think that it gets to a point where you realize that passion doesn't pay. So the person would pick pay over passion. And it takes a bit more than passion to stay in the profession. We just talked about threats and then all that. So someone would want to live a quiet life, enjoy his life. After all, they may have probably paid their dues already. It doesn't pay. Basically, it's the pay. It doesn't. So they want better opportunities.
A lot of media houses are springing up, especially radio, television, online, and there are fingerprints of politicians around them. The increasing political ownership of the media, is there a cause for concern? Should we be worried?
Yes, I think that's there's cause for concern because it gets to a point where the journalists there do not become independent. They lose their desire to do the right thing because they would have to check if they are not stepping on the tools of their political party. So something should be done about it. I wish we would have a system where we would have radio stations or television stations owned by politicians, but they still do the right thing. They still execute their mandates as they should. There shouldn't be any interference. I think it's a problem we have to look at.
Right. What's your take on Sulley?
That's an interesting question. I think that this conversation has come up several times and I've heard various views about it. I think that Sulley isn't compulsory. So should organizers of an event refuse to give you Sulley, it shouldn't be the basis for you to throw away their story. Yes. And Sulley shouldn't also influence your work.
Okay.
Yes, it shouldn't influence your work. If this is the truth, you have to report it as it is. There are people who have taken stance against Sulley. They have told themselves they will not receive it. They will not take it, even if they go there. That is fine. But for me, I feel that it shouldn't influence your work in any way. I see it as more of honorarium that is given to you, just like other officials. If government officials go for a meeting, they get some TNT to facilitate their movement around. Even those people who receive fuel and all those things. So it's not bad, but it gets bad if it influences your line of thinking and your write-up and how you react to things. People can go for events and then still come back and write stories about the event, stories that organizers would ordinarily not want. I'll give an example. I think 2 years ago, I covered a press conference called by one of these fishermen groups. It was about the close season. Before the press conference would start, a certain woman came there and then some small squabble ensued between them and then became war of words. They were arguing. So when everything was settled, the organizers called us aside, told us that, we know this and this happened, but let's focus on the main reason why you were here. And they tried to tell us, that issue has been resolved, so we should just concentrate on their statement. But I didn't do that. Even though I had been given Sulley, I didn't do that. I wrote my story from the drama that unfolded, and it was a front page story. Yes. So Sulley, you can take, all right, but it shouldn't influence your work. Yes.
On the heels of that publication, didn't the PRO or the liaison for the media call you to express his displeasure?
They didn't call me directly, but a friend of the organizer called, and we sort of had a sidebar conversation. It wasn't really a call to ascertain what happened, but he was just interested in the development and he wanted to know what happened. That was it.
But let's broaden the discussion. You know, the issue of Sulley, look at me as, let's say, the PRO of an organization. You come to our event, I hand over to you, let's say, 200 Ghana cedis. My expectation is that the story is published. Haven't you had any such expectation, any such person or official of a company call you to ask, oh, we didn't see our story, when is it coming? You haven't had any such experience? Because I have heard from a number of colleagues that sometimes the story, even at the end of the day, doesn't get published, and the PROs are chasing them all over the place.
Those calls come in a lot of times. They call, they WhatsApp you, or so usually I'll tell you that my duty is to write the story.
Yeah.
And it is the responsibility of my editors to publish it. So let's wait and see when they'll publish it. If they don't publish it, they keep pestering me, I'll just give you my editor's news editor's number. Then you speak with them. But most of these people are unable to call them and then speak with them to ask when the stories would come. They keep calling. They call almost every time. Sometimes I'll tell you that look behind the paper. Then there's a name there, there's an editor there, there's someone who's in charge. Their phone numbers there, you could reach them. Because sometimes I don't assign myself to the event. You send your invitation to someone and the person assigned me to come. So go back to the person you sent your invitation to, ask why your story hasn't been published. Then it ends there.
What are your golden moments, these 10 years and a little more? Golden moments, memories you cherish?
Okay. I think it has to do with when your stories get impact. One was a story I did about the Abofu drain. You know, if you know Achimota Abofu, there's this storm drain there behind the GH Media School. It's in a very, very bad shape. I wrote a story about it. It was on the front page. There was a reaction from the Ministry of Works and Housing. They had hydrological agency. They had given certain promises. I went back again after a year or so, and then the situation was the same. Then the whole thing started affecting the rail way there, and then the Ministry of Railway had to go there and fix that portion. It was not what I expected, but I felt that at least that story has gotten the attention of duty bearers, and they've gone to fix a portion of it. I'm still pushing anyway. Then there are those series of stories I have done on infertility stigma and the reactions that have come. My first award-winning entry was something about azoospermia. And people felt educated. They kept asking me, what is azoospermia? It had to do with male reproductive system. They had never thought of it. And I felt that it was good that in the end, that story was awarded. It comes back to the passion we talked about earlier, that you realize that you are being part of the solution to problems in the society. These are some of the moments that makes me happy.
Right. You worked with the Ghana News Agency before coming to the Ghanaian Times. The Ghana News Agency operates virtually in anonymity. That is, those who write, you don't get bylines. The Ghanaian Times is the opposite. Was there any different way you received the fact that you got outdoors? That is, you started seeing your byline with your stories when you came to Ghanaian Times. Having done some 5 years or so at the GNA where you operated in anonymity, nobody could connect you with any story.
Okay. My stay at GNA started with my internship back in 2012 or 2011, one of those. Yes. So then now GNA uses bylines. Now they do, yes. But then they were not using bylines. So I did internship, came back to do national service, did almost 2 years as a stringer, should I say. I wasn't being paid then. And I felt that I was stagnant. People didn't know me. But a lot of times, Ghanaian Times was using my stories. Daily Graphic was picking my stories from DNA and they were using them. I was sometimes getting front page on Ghanaian Times. And I felt that my name could have been there. So how do I market myself? How do I market myself? People do not know me. I had not been employed at DNA. So I spoke to the regional correspondent of Ghanaian Times, David Tete, that I would want to string for them. At least I would get a byline. Then on that basis, I could use it to get employment anywhere in the media space, because then people would know you, can link you to your stories. Yes. Then I started in February 2017. Then he traveled and I had the opportunity to be more or less the regional correspondent. There, yes. So that was when people started seeing my byline. And it felt good that you can show the paper to someone, or someone can call you that this is your story, this is a good job done. Yes, so that is the difference between having the byline and not having that. It felt also good not having the byline on GNA, because you could do certain stories without fear that anyone would come and
get away with it. That's right.
You can go all out and do those stories. Yes.
Should journalists be licensed?
This is a difficult question. Should journalists be licensed? I think that to some extent the licensing would help. It would separate the good guys from the chaff, because there are lots of chaff in the system. People are doing all sorts of unethical things in the name of journalism. They are throwing the ethics to the dogs. They don't stick to issues. They are all over the place, and would help keep us in check. I remember back at school, we used to have that argument: is journalism a profession? One of the points that the others would use to say that the journalism is not a profession, that we don't have licenses, and your license cannot be withdrawn. Only professional bodies have licenses, like the lawyers, even the PR people, they belong to certain licensed associations. And so I think that it would make the profession a profession, journalism, so that people would be cautious of what they do. So if you're going to do something reckless, you know you're not going to get away with it. If you lose your license, this will happen to you. So on that score, I think that journalists should be licensed. But there is this issue of censorship. People using that license to muzzle people. They would they could threaten you that the license can be withdrawn from you and all that. So it's still something that needs a lot of critical thinking, and we look at the good side and the bad side, and whichever has more weight we pick.
GNA and Ghanaian Times, like the Graphic Communications Group or the GBC, they always have a pool of very well experienced professionals. Now, between the two institutions you have worked in, how has the presence of such extensively experienced materials helped you professionally?
I think that they have helped shape our stories because you go and read things that your predecessors have written and you realize that there's more you can do. There's more you can follow up and you learn a lot from them. It enriches your writings or write-ups and it makes you a better person. And I think that it helps us also chronicle history.
Okay.
You look back, you look at these people, and in chronicling history, you get inspired that, oh, this man used to be the editor of Ghanaian Times, this man used to be this. And we have also been part of history making. These days, you see pictures of newspapers, Ghanaian Times graphic on social media, throwing back to events that happened years ago. So it's all part of history, it's all part of capacity building, all that.
Okay. How many more years do you want to go before you drop your pen?
I'll do a couple of years. I wouldn't stay too long I wouldn't stay too long because I think I've gotten to a stage where I want to be part of solution that solution to problems in society. Yes, I would want to move from journalism, do other things in the communication field, do a bit of writings here and there that I talked about earlier, and then help push things to happen. You know, as a journalist, you can advocate, you can write about the things in society, but if you are in the probably NGO sector, if you are in the decision-making sector, any field like that, you can actually facilitate the solution process. Yes.
Would you encourage, let's say, your child or your relative or a mentee that approaches you with the topic, I want to pursue journalism? Would you encourage the person to take to the profession?
That's a tricky one. Encouraging people to go into journalism. I believe that passion drives us to do the things we do. So if the person has that passion, but I would lay bare the fact that journalism, well, in this part of the world, doesn't pay that much. So in considering it, you have to think about that one. And I also believe that people should be allowed to dream.
Okay.
And achieve the things they want to achieve. Who knows, in their time, things might have changed. And they could even find themselves beyond Ghana in other countries where journalism actually pays. So I would encourage them, but they would have to, I will not sugarcoat it. Yes, that's it. I will not sugarcoat it.
If you have the opportunity to start your journalism practice again, what are some of the mistakes or some of the things you will avoid?
The mistakes and things I would avoid. I think that I would focus more on feature writing.
Okay.
Doing long articles.
Yeah, extensive reports.
Extensive reports. I think those ones are very interesting. They open your eyes to a lot of things. You learn a lot, and there are no limitations. There she said, doesn't bring out the journalism that we saw some people do in the past that earned their names. Going the extra mile to do long essays, they give you the opportunity to explore more. I wouldn't call doing he said as a mistake, but I think that yes, I have now seen the light, so I think I would choose that. Another thing I would probably avoid is limiting myself to certain areas.
Okay.
I think that I had that fear for mathematics. So I was sharing business reporting or business things. But when I took that bold step and learned a lot about business, learned a little about business, I think that it opened my eye to another area. And then even in other stories I do, you could just bring in some aspects of the business reporting, data journalism. They all come up to make other stories you write beautiful. So then I wouldn't restrict myself. Yes, that's another thing I would avoid. Yes.
In your first degree, you specialized in public relations. Were you telling us what the future direction of your profession is?
Definitely. I would want to, I would want to be, I mentioned communication and all that. So then I was just creating the path for that. Yes.
Let's look at press freedom in Ghana. Give me your honest assessment.
Press freedom in Ghana.
Yes.
I think there are so many restrictions when it comes to journalism practice in Ghana. There are internal and external pressures, So the internal one is that self-censorship. You feel that, okay, if I do this story, probably someone will come after me, so I wouldn't do it again. See my experience with the
Piccadilly group.
Yes. Apart from that, there's this issue of governments, influencing, and there are people calling people out. Sometimes you file a story, and then the reaction that comes, yes. So that makes you internally censor yourself. You would want to avoid certain things. Yes. Then there's the external one about reaction on social media, people picking on you, people. I haven't personally experienced that, but I see it happen to a lot of people that they do stories and then people go all out to criticize them. And if such people are not strong, they wouldn't want to do anything. And we see it in the index. We keep falling and falling.
Yeah.
There's no evidence to prove otherwise that press freedom in Ghana is what it should be. The standards are falling. There's more we need to do to protect.
Let me officially congratulate you on PENSDOWN on your latest awards by the International Organization for Migration and the European Union. Give us a brief about the story that's, earned you that recognition.
Thank you very much. The story was about labor migration. It was entitled Making the Greener Pastures Safe for Labor Migration. And what I sought out to do was that I realized that there's this unemployment situation in Ghana. But there are several opportunities out there for people to go and work. But the people who go tell us chilling stories about how they are abused and the troubles they go through. Fine, some go through unauthorized routes, but there are opportunities there. Yeah. So why don't you make that process safe and move that burden off the government's head? Yes. So I looked at the abuses, a bit of the abuses. I looked at the benefits that comes with labor migration. I looked at remittances. I looked at some efforts that government has even done to create opportunities for people out there. I understand, and the Youth Employment Agency also has a program that ensures that nurses and other people get employment outside. So I looked at all these things, and then I looked at the ban on the Gulf, ban on the recruitment to the Gulf states, and efforts to have some MOUs with those countries, and then essentially to make the migration safe for people who want to go out there. Yes, and then I also made it clear that irregular migration is not good. People would also have to use the right route to go. And then also encourage that people who want to stay can also make it to here. It's bits and pieces of labor migration. It was published in a May Day special edition last year.
Okay. Who do you look up to in this profession? I'm talking about your mentors, the people you take inspiration from, or the person, depending on the numbers.
I don't have a specific person I look up to.
Okay.
I think that there's beauty in having different people you look up to, because you pick the best from this person, you pick from this person, and then you get your unique identity.
Yeah.
So in times past, in journalism, we looked up to Komla Dumor, the late Komla Dumor.
That's right.
But I realized that I wasn't cut out to be a broadcast journalist, because mine is writing. So I looked to people like Elizabeth Ohene, Cameron Dodu, and Milashon, and those people, Joe Archer of Daily Graphic, and these people are fantastic writers. I wouldn't say younger ones, but there are people a few steps ahead of me. Someone like Seth Bupe, Manasseh, all those people are great writers, and I take inspiration from them.
You have shared your golden memories. Are there any lowest points?
Lowest points. I think that you've all come together to make me a better writer. Lowest memory. There are times that you get saddled with work and you wish that you hadn't done journalism. There's so much. I remember when I was doing my top up, I was then stringing for Ghanaian Times in Cape Coast. And top up is weekend, so
yes,
shuffle between Accra and Cape Coast. At times I have to leave Cape Coast very early, and then in the bus I'll be drafting my stories, because I probably covered an event on Friday, went deep into the night. I couldn't work on the stories. They would want to take the stories. Sometimes you'll be in class and something would happen in Cape Coast, and you have to get those struggles. I sometimes felt that even stopping the top up, because I realized that I was inching closer to a great opportunity of being with Times but I was also being distracted. I felt there was so much on me, and those were quite challenging moments, but it all ended in glory, and then we are all here.
Let me pull the brakes here. Thank you very much for this conversation.
You're welcome.
My colleague Jonathan Donkor joined me today from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. For those who don't know, the Ghanaian Times newspaper is one of two leading newspapers in Ghana. It is state-owned with nationwide coverage, and they have some of the most experienced hands within their stable. He is one of their reporters who specializes in a number of areas that are of interest to him, a multiple award winner, and he says he has a few years more to give to journalism before bowing out. Let's see how long he goes. This has been PENSDOWN. My brother, thank you very much for joining me.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Right. We'll be back next time with another edition. Thanks for joining us. Bye.